Today we're going to talk to John Connor. No, not that John Connor. This John Connor.
Hi, Sandy.
Hi, it's Dave, and welcome to the ADK channel. We are here today with JC from Dog Eat Dog. Hi, JC. Welcome to the channel. Thank you for joining us today.
Guys, great to see you. David, Andy, thanks for having me.
It's an absolute pleasure to have you on the channel. We are both fans. It's weird. I was about to say we grew up with you, which feels really weird to say that, but it's for me. It's a very much a formative part of my musical life. So my late teens, early 20s was very much a Dog Eat Dog era of my life. I'm not too sure with Andy when it was for you, but probably relatively 20s for you, was it?
Yeah, early 20s. Yeah, when the album came out. So I'm a little bit older than David. So yeah, when I got the All Borrow Kings album and introduced the band, I was sort of early 20s. Yeah.
So it's very interesting to go back. It was great, and we are so thankful for you agreeing to obviously come on the channel and have a talk with us. For most people, Dog Eat Dog will be the band that, or the way that they will know of the band will probably be from the No Fronts, probably the remix version, especially here in the UK, because that was a huge hit. And it was definitely where I remember seeing number 9, was it? Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. I actually remember seeing it being performed on the Big Breakfast TV program in the garden. That's what I remember it in the early morning, probably on the way to school or to a job or something like that when I was about 16 or whatever it would have been. And that's what sticks in my head. But before we get to like the No Fronts era, we've obviously got to go right the way back to 1990 when the band formed.
Okay.
We want to start right to the beginning. We're going to test your memory to go all the way back then. And I'm just really intrigued a little bit about how the band kind of came together and why on the early stages, especially on the Warrant EP, you had that kind of cool New York hardcore sound. Where did you decide to go down that direction? How did the band come together?
Well, the band came together as friends, and to talk about Dog Eat Dog's beginning, it would be unfair not to mention Mucky Pup, because Dave was an active member of Mucky Pup in the late 80s and performed on A Boy in a Man's World, which was a big record for them. And Dan Nastasi had left Mucky Pup, and Sean Kilkenny was filling in on guitar at some point in the late 80s. Let's call it 88, 89 is when Sean was playing guitar with Murphy's Law. And Mucky Pup. He did play guitar with Murphy's Law at some point too,
right.
And so did Dan. And that's part of our story as well. But no, it was Dave and Sean were playing with Mucky Pup in the late 80s, and I went over with Mucky Pup on tour to Europe for the last 2 tours that they did with that lineup as just a roadie. It was funny because Chris Milnes asked me to come with them, and I said, yes, I'd love to go to Europe with you guys, but why me? Because I can't tune a guitar. I don't do anything. And they're like, well, you're always at the center of a party. You know how to, turn something mediocre into a good time or a rager. And we feel like you'd be the guy just to have around. So I went over to Europe with those guys, and we did those 2 tours. And for reasons that I won't get into here, they've been rehashed maybe in other places, but Dave and Sean left Mucky Pup, and they said, we would like to start our own band. And they had me in mind as the singer because they knew I had been singing in cover bands over the prior 3 or 4 years. We all got started pretty young performing live on stage in our 15, 16, 17 area. I mean, Dan Nastasi was still in high school when he wrote A Boy in a Man's World, but like a lot of the early Mucky Pup songs, Danny was like a junior and senior in high school. So we all got started young, and Dave and Sean said, yeah, we want to start a band. We want to have more of a voice in what occurs. And while we were in Europe, we got exposed to Urban Dance Squad music Mental Floss for the Globe was that album, and we all thought it was cool, but it reopened my mind and my imagination into what a band actually could be. Because I had been in cover bands and I was way more interested in skateboarding at that time in my life than being in a band. Band required discipline and rehearsals and getting together and things like that. And skateboarding just required a place to skate. You didn't even need your friends. It was better with your friends, but when I heard Urban Dance Squad, I was like, oh, okay, like these guys are doing something that I would like to try. And that wasn't meant to copy them. It was more meant to, they're mixing elements of movies and samples, and they're doing rock and blues and funk and heavy metal all in one. And that was an exciting idea for me. So I said, guys, I'll sing, but I don't want to be in a band that's just hardcore or just metal or just funny songs like Mucky Pup. I want to do whatever. Like, let's not put limitations on ourselves with genres or instrumentation or whatever those boxes, real or imagined, that I felt were around some of the bands that we even liked and appreciated. And Mucky Pup was great to me, but they were already doing that. I wanted to do something new, and Sean and Dave agreed. And that essentially was the start of Dog Eat Dog. The three of us saying, yes, we are going to be a band. Dave and Sean started writing riffs immediately, and we called in our buddies from Mucky Pup, the drummer John Milnes, and then Dan Nastasi, our friend as well, heard what we were doing, and he was already out of Mucky Pup, and he already played and quit Murphy's Law, and he thought what we were doing was really exciting, and he wanted to be a part of it too. And that's basically how Dog Eat Dog started. I mean, Dave, Sean, and I said, we want to bring people together, we want to make a party, and we want to create original music without boundaries.
Awesome. And from the time of forming the band and kind of getting everyone together to the point of releasing the EP, how much time did it take you to get all that together?
The EP came out in the fall of '93. We probably recorded it, I think it was late winter or early spring. So we had about a 2-year gestation period. We call the official start of the band April 1st, 1990. That's when we had our first performance with the name Dog Eat Dog, and we felt like that was our launch point. So yeah, I would say it was probably about 2.5 years of just writing songs, doing gigs. We got a demo, our second demo got in the hands of Billy Biohazard, and he went to Roadrunner Germany because Biohazard was on tour in Germany, and said, hey, there's a cool band right now coming up in the New York scene, Dog Eat Dog. And they sent Howie Abrams, who became our A&R man from the New York office. And Howie came down to one of our gigs and was like, hey, this is great energy. We don't have anything like this. Are you guys interested? And we said, fuck yeah, let's do it.
Awesome. Andy, you had a question about Warrant, didn't you?
Yeah, I think it's documented that you kind of sort of chose the title because how would you describe them, Dave? The sort of glam rock hair metal band from
metal band,
America
Warrant,
had an album called Dog Eat Dog released at the same sort of time, and you've obviously sort of jumped on that. Was that a conscious decision to perhaps fool some people into fool some Warrant fans into buying your EP? Think when they're going to the store,
Not at all.
Stuff. Did it work at all?
Absolute piss take. That's what it was. We were getting ready to launch our first, baby into the world, and as it was, I guess, coming together, we saw that a hair metal band, which was about to be a really dying breed of music at that time, grunge was getting ready to stomp it into the ground. We were just like, oh no, nothing against Warrant, but they used our name, and being the piss takers that we're like, well, we're going to use your name. And later on, as we were, especially in the States, and we were trying to promote All Borough Kings, we were going to record stores and doing these kind of appearances, and people at record stores were like, yeah, man, like, it's really crazy because you got this EP named Warrant, and Warrant's got this thing Doggy Dog, and people don't know what bin to look in the record stores and CD stores. So, it created a little controversy and buzz. And I don't know if we were expecting that. We really didn't know what to expect. I mean, we were just doing what we did in a very naive way and kind of in a vacuum. At those times, it was so different. You didn't know what the rest of the world was doing unless somebody was sending you tapes from Europe or Japan, or, you picked up a fanzine, or, skateboard magazines used to be a way for me and Sean, especially, to discover music. So, yeah, we just did what we thought was funny at that point.
I mean, did the guys from Warrant ever comment on that, or did you ever find out what they thought about the fact that you'd done that?
Yeah, I don't think they were happy about it. They were already, they were going from being MTV stars to being irrelevant. So that's never fun. No. I've done it myself, so I know what it's like. And yeah, they were just having a downturn in their career, and unfortunately, we were just another part of that for them. But it's not like Doggy Dog came and stole their shine or anything. No. It was just bad timing for them.
I mean, we can now move on to obviously All Borough Kings, which is an absolutely amazing album. It was very interesting for me going back and listening to the albums before today, because there are certain songs that well, Andy knows very well. I'm not a person that listens from the start of an album to an end of an album. I'm a shuffle guy, so I put on 50 different albums, put them on shuffle from different bands, and so it was really interesting for me to go back through all of your back catalogue and just kind of listen from start to finish again, and just try to immerse myself back in it. But All Borough Kings is an absolute killer album. And I just suddenly remembered that the very first part of that album is a saxophone that kicks in. And you just suddenly go, I just suddenly thought, well, anyone that didn't know that had only ever had the Warrant EP, and then they suddenly get All Borough Kings and hadn't seen you live, they're going to be shocked by that. They're going to be, what the hell have I just put on? I mean, where did that come from? The idea to suddenly start bring in the saxophone. What was the decision process around that?
Well, just to tie a thread into Warrant starts with a banjo. So, we were definitely, like I said, we were just trying to carve our own path and take influences. And Sean's dad had a banjo, so that's how, it was accessible. That's how we used it, until I smashed it at a show in New York City one time, pissed drunk. That's what I mean. Sean's dad had a banjo, but no, the saxophone came in right around the time of our first show, which April 1st, 1990. And we had written the strip song, which is on the All Borough Kings album. And it's got, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And it just was like a no-brainer. We're like, yeah, let's try and put some saxophone on this. So we did. A friend of ours, one of my skate buddies, Kevin Riley, he came in and he played it, but he just wasn't reliable. Like, he just couldn't. He could hit the notes at practice, but maybe after a couple of beers or at a show, he was hitting flat notes and it just wasn't quite working out. And our friend Mike said, I know this guy Scotty, and he's a great sax player. And we brought Scott over, and the strip song turned into Funnel King, turned into Who's the King, and then all of a sudden there was saxophone on 1/3 or half of the new songs that we were writing for our debut album. And even like No Fronts, that was a song that was a piece of music that wasn't supposed to be a Doggy Dog song, but when we claimed it and we wrote, I came up with the the main sax theme in No Fronts. I'm not a sax player, but I wrote the melody, and I could hum it to Scott, and Scott could play it and like play it right away. So he was good enough that he could translate some of our ideas and some of our melodies into reality. And the fact is, Dave, myself, Sean, we loved Fishbone, and Fishbone had a full horn section, sax, trombone, trumpet, and we're like, okay, we can grab an element of Fishbone and ska, but it's not going to sound like ska because we're Doggy Dog, and we've got hip hop, and we've got, punk rock or metal, whatever we were trying to incorporate. It just didn't matter. We were pulling from different areas. There were samples from a Woody Allen movie. There's a sample from Terminator 2 on our second demo. It starts with the line, "Are you the lethal guardian of John Connor? What has he done now?" And the song starts, but we knew we couldn't use that on the record. But those were just the things that we were kind of trying to incorporate in our music in organic ways to create, I don't want to say a new sound, but just something authentic and something that was truly ours and not copying from, let's say, another band or artist or something like that.
Because I guess when the album came out over here, we hadn't really heard, because we didn't really get Warrant over here. It was not an EP that would have been in the UK, and because obviously nowadays with the internet, everything can go worldwide. But as you said, tape sharing, or if you didn't get the publicity, but suddenly there was this band being played on the Big Breakfast TV program on the morning television. We've got this band playing in the garden, and you're playing on Top of the Pops. I mean, how was it for you to go from doing the EP and playing in sort of doing American and suddenly just blowing up? I know you blew up definitely over here in the UK, but what was it like being in the band at that time when it all just kicked off?
Well, there was a huge, let's say, journey between the Warrant EP released, getting signed and releasing the Warrant EP, and then in the fall of 1995, winning or being nominated and winning an MTV award. I mean, by the time we made it to UK TV, we had done a lot of touring in Europe, especially. So for us, I know it's funny to me that you guys say, there was no awareness of the Warrant EP in the United Kingdom, and we know that because we went and toured for the Warrant EP in the United Kingdom, and nobody knew us. But we were lucky because we were on tour opening up for the Bad Brains and the Goats, and so we were the first support act, but we were getting to tour with our heroes, who were the Bad Brains on the Quickness LP, and then the Goats were a really exciting rock and hip hop act from Philadelphia that themselves were getting a lot of attention. So in '93, we just were like, fuck it, we're going to Europe. This is a big deal to us. We get to tour with the Bad Brains, a big deal to us. So even though people didn't know who we are, we had a chance to cut our teeth and play those gigs in front of nobody as the club's filling up. I mean, there were nights on that tour, we played the Brixton Academy, and that night Fishbone was the headliner. So that it was Fishbone, Bad Brains, the Goats, and then Doggy Dog. And people were throwing change at us. They were throwing, batteries, at the Brixton Academy, but we didn't care. We're like, we're playing with Bad Brains. We're playing with Fishbone, we're skating to Brixton Skate Park. For us, we were a million miles away from home, traveling in a tiny little van and having the time of our lives. And then we went home and we had all that energy and we made All Borough Kings. And, we had some confidence because Daryl Jennifer from the Bad Brains was like, yeah, I believe in you guys. I'll jump on a song, that no problem. I can do that. And, we just felt like we could do anything and go anywhere. And when All Borough Kings came out, it was the spring of 1994, and the album wasn't even out yet, but we were on tour with Biohazard. And this time we weren't the opening band. It was Downset, Doggy Dog, Biohazard. So, we were going on stage right before the headliner, and we had a lot of swagger at that time. We had done a lot of shows, and not that we just knew we had something different. Even though Downset and Biohazard were both like us in ways, just the energy that we had and the sound that we had was just a little different, and we were getting a lot of great feedback. You know, the kids were going nuts. They hadn't even heard our album yet, and they were already jumping, stage diving, and just feeding off of not only our energy, but the energy of the whole night and that tour.
Yeah.
And that was magical. And once that tour was over, Roadrunner was like, okay, guys, great job. You know, go back in the studio and make another record. And we were like, fuck no. Like, we're going to go do a headlining tour. Like, we have promoters in Europe like calling us up, like we're going on our own bus, and now we're headlining, you know, shows through Germany and Austria and Switzerland and United Kingdom, and just building the buzz little by little, and getting guys like from Germany, like Such a Surge or Dub War, would support us on some shows. And like, we had gone from the opener to now the headliner in the course of our first record, and even a few months. And it was really, you know, we had a lot of momentum. And one of the keys was that on the Biohazard tour, MTV was coming around, and they would play our video on Headbangers Ball, and they would play our video on 120 Minutes. And those two shows were the only two shows where you could get alternative music. I mean, MTV was playing Madonna and Michael Jackson and, you know, Peter Gabriel and stuff like that. And they had their niche shows, and people all around Europe tuned into the MTV, you know, European channel, and they were seeing our videos and they were picking up on the energy. I mean, we were the first music video ever to have snowboarding in it, and that was starting to, skate and snowboard culture was really starting to connect with musical genres like hardcore and metal and crossover and hip hop too. So we had an aesthetic that not many bands had at that time. You know, there was a uniqueness to us by the way that we dressed and the kind of alchemy of music that we were presenting that resonated with the viewers around Europe. And so we went from being an underground band to being, you know, a fairly successful and mainstream alternative band. And then the remix came, and we got together with Jam Master Jay and made the remix, and we made the video clip in the summer of 1995. And right around the same time, 2 days after we played Dynamo Festival in 1995, and everyone's probably seen the video clips of, you know, Machine Head and Biohazard, Life of Agony, Madball, Dog Eat Dog. You know, we were all, you know, that was just an incredible festival and an incredible moment in time. And all the Roadrunner bands, Fear Factory, Nail Bomb, everybody was there. And like, Roadrunner ruled the summer of 1995. There's no doubt about it. And we were right there. Literally, I was standing on a surfboard riding that wave, you know, and it just connected with a lot of people. And then Roadrunner went to work. You know, instead of just being happy with that success, they pushed us into the charts, and they really, you know, got MTV behind us. And the feedback from MTV was all good. Kids wanted more Dog Eat Dog, and that's how we ended up on The Big Breakfast and Zig and Zag, and you know, all those shows, you know, were calling, because we had gone from being a successful indie band to being a pop band. You know, we jumped over the shark, and there we were, you know, on your TVs. And you know, it just it culminated with the January 1996. We were top 10 in the UK, and we were on the top of the pops twice within a couple of weeks. We were on top of the pops, and you know, that was, let's say, our biggest moment, for me anyway. I would have to say the MTV Award and Top of the Pops were probably, as far as our pop success, top moments right there.
It's interesting you were talking about, obviously, the connection with the crowd, because I've only ever seen Dog Eat Dog at festivals, but I know, Andy, you've seen at clubs level as well, but I only ever had the chance at places like Reading, Donington. I've been twice at Reading, maybe even. And
Yeah,
Dog Eat Dog for me was always the pinnacle festival band because I didn't see anyone. Everyone bounced, everyone had fun, and there was always smiles on people's faces. Every track was about movement, and there was very few other bands that really did that at festivals. There was a lot of aggression. There was lots of slam pits. There was lots
yeah,
of swinging your arms
yeah,
and whirlpooling. But Dog Eat Dog was never about that. Dog
sure.
Eat Dog was about, to me, was about you could feel safe with like bringing your little sister into a mosh pit because everyone would be arms around it, jumping around and having a great time. And for me, I was wondering whether about when you thought about writing the songs with All Borough Kings, and we'll get to play games in a second. But when you were writing songs for those albums, were you thinking about how these songs were going to be taken over with the audience, how they were going to react to them? Was that a big part of the writing process?
Definitely not with All Borough Kings.
Okay.
It was a different thing. What happened with All Borough Kings, and I think many bands on their first album, is you have your whole life, quote unquote, to write your first album. And with All Borough Kings, almost all of those songs were played live many times in front of our friends and fans around New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, the area where the band came from. So it was product tested with our peers. We were
Right.
already playing shows opening for Life of Agony or playing with the Beatnuts or, you name it. We played every club in New York City between 93 and 95, from the smallest to the biggest. So it was really more, we kind of knew what was working and was not working before we recorded the album, but we weren't thinking of like fans. We didn't have fans. At that point, we had a community. You know what I
Right.
mean? That's really what it was. Our friends told their friends, and they would come and show up at a gig and have a party. And that's how we even got signed in the first place, because we could draw 200 people with a demo tape. And it was really more, somebody brought their friend to a Dog Eat Dog show that had never seen us, or maybe wasn't even into hardcore or something, but they were like, nah, you got to check this band out. They're so much fun. And when they saw us play and they felt, like you said, I mean, maybe in the early days you couldn't bring your little sister in the pit.
Maybe not the early.
I know what you mean. There was a sense of community where if you fall on the ground, you're going to get picked up. You know what I mean? If somebody smacks you in the head at a Dog Eat Dog show, you're going to be laughing about it and having a beer, 10 minutes later. It's not going to be all out war. And, we didn't want to be associated with violence. We wanted to have an edge. We loved hardcore. We loved metal. We loved punk. But we wanted girls at the show too. It wasn't about having teeny bopper girls, which eventually that came to after MTV. But, we wanted diversity. We wanted people that loved hip hop to maybe catch something in our show. And we certainly wanted to appeal to the hardcore community because that was our meat and potatoes. That was our base. But we weren't thinking about anything commercial at that point. We wanted to make music videos, and even to this day and back in those days, I wanted music with a hook, that people could sing along to, or a sax line that people couldn't stop thinking about after the gig. So, Dave and I were into pop music as well. Certain bands like the Police, let's say, tremendous band, love them, and they have great pop songs that have elements of reggae and pop and a little punk too, but there's certainly a pop element, and we didn't shy away from that, but we didn't fully embrace it either until later on.
Which helps us move on to the next album, Play Games. So, Play Games, there was a lot more. Although the whole album is not what I would say like commercial pop, but the bigger hits you've got on there, so things like Rocky, Isms, definitely leaned heavily into commercial. you could almost hear that they were written with the music videos in mind, with the hooks in mind. Was that something when you were, because you said you had more time with All Borough Kings to kind of work on it, to play games out? Was this something where it was almost, you've got to go in the studio, you need to write an album to kind of build on that success, and we want 3 or 4 more big hits that we can get videos off? Was that something Roadrunner kind of pushed you on, or?
Yes and no. They would have loved to have, some hits, but we would have loved to have some hits too. Really, at that point, we didn't really realize it at the time, but we had already kind of gotten too big for some of our fan base. People that were down with the band, let's say with Biohazard and Madball times already, after Big Breakfast and Zig and Zag. And, when you get that kind of exposure, you can't help but be overexposed in some people's mind. There was just no way around that. And even though we didn't, we weren't trying to write hits. And I think it's a mistake when anybody thinks they're trying to write a hit. It comes off as disingenuous. So I really believe that we were following our guts and our heart and, our muse. We tried to go back and write songs with Dan Nastasi, because he had, he had a big influence. He wrote most of Who's the King, at least the music and some of the hooks, and he was a big part in writing No Fronts. Like Dan knew how to write catchy songs. So we tried to recreate that magic with him, but it fell short because he hadn't been through the last year and a half of touring and gigs and everything with us. So we just weren't vibing in the right way. I will say, for Play Games, we were treating it like a job. Like, we had a studio booked, and it was Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and we were going to go from 2 o'clock to 6 o'clock, and we put in work, but we weren't like trying to write hits. We put Dio on the album. Like, Dio's a hero, and R.I.P. But like, Dio was probably at the lowest point in his career when we put him on the record. We weren't putting Dio on the record because we wanted to capitalize on his success. We put Dio on the song Games because when I wrote the hook, I heard his voice singing it. I was like, I hear Dio singing this. And Howie Abrams was like, I'm going to see if I can get you Dio. And Dio, because we had success, came to New York City and sang the hook. We had RZA from Wu-Tang on because we love Wu-Tang. But Wu-Tang was not a household name in 1996. It was only after Wu-Tang Forever came out that the whole world knew about Wu-Tang. For us, it was just this incredible group that we felt like the whole world should know about. So, we brought RZA in. We took some chances. We did weird shit. Like, Games has a sports commentator on it. We flexed. We had some money to spend, and we got good producers in the Butcher Brothers and Bob Musso, and we went to great studios, Sony Studio in New York City. We had a weed budget for that album. I mean, that's how much money we spent. We actually had a fucking weed budget. So, when it came time to make videos, all of a sudden our videos didn't cost $5,000 or $10,000. Rocky cost, I think, $100,000. We flew to LA and filmed Isms for probably, $50,000. So, we had money to spend, and we felt like we deserved to spend that money because we had worked hard to get that success. No matter what people were going to say about it, we were the ones who flew around the fucking world. We were the ones who were working 5-6 days a week and spent an entire year on the road away from our friends and family and made sacrifices. So we didn't feel bad about spending Roadrunner's money. We knew that we would have to pay it back. We knew we probably could never pay it back. So it was a chance to flex and have fun and see what could happen.
I know, Andy, you had a couple of questions in relation to Play Games, didn't you?
Yeah, John, you've mentioned a couple of times while we've been talking, wanting the band to have no limits and uniqueness as well. I mean, if you go back to the All Borough Kings album, there's everything in there. There's the crunchy heavy metal riffs. There's the sort of rap. There's the hardcore. I mean, I remember when I was sort of introduced to the band by a friend who loved the true American hardcore bands, Minor Threat, Black Flag, all those guys, which I didn't really get into, but I found something in you, probably because it was such a mixed bag.
Yeah,
you got the serious messages about sort of gun violence, and there's humour as well. You sort of mix it all up. But I mean, that carries on into play games. But you mentioned the sports broadcaster in the song Games. Did he write his little monologue, or was that from yourself or one of the band? And he refers to himself as "I am legal." Is that how Americans pronounce the word? Or sorry, the name Ian, as we do in Great Britain?
Yeah.
Or is that his sort of is that his sort of sports name, as in a play on words on the sort of the film about American planes?
No, it would have been cool if that was the nature of it. He wasn't our first choice anyway. There was a guy in New York City that had a huge pull, and his name was Chris Mad Dog Russo. Now, if you've ever seen the film Bad Lieutenant, Mad Dog Russo is featured. He's the guy on the radio show that Harvey Keitel is listening to. And we really wanted him to do it, and he agreed to do it. And then he pulled out at the last minute because he was getting backlash from Bad Lieutenant, because Bad Lieutenant is a really edgy movie, and some ill shit happens during that movie. And his radio show was the biggest thing in New York City, and he was getting bad press, and he was like, I don't know about this band. I'm not going to do it. And one of the smaller sportscasters at the station, Ian Eagle, was like, I'll do it. No problem. You know, he got his whatever few thousand to do it. Myself and the band and Howie Abrams, who was our A&R man at Roadrunner. And I got to say, I've said it before, but since I'm talking about him, I'm going to give him some props. He was really as close as a fifth member as you could get in the band. He came up with, he was, I think, the first person that brought up the name All Borough Kings. So he really kind of helped, name that album. During the No Fronts remix with Jam Master Jay, Here I Am. I just got one record under my belt. I didn't write all the lyrics for All Borough Kings, so it wasn't even like I had that much experience. He helped write some lyrics on the No Front remix. He really brought an aesthetic and a thumbs up or thumbs down, kind of opinion to Doggy Dog. And so Howie and I went to WFAN, the big sports radio station in New York, and we played the track with Ian. And, we had ideas where the sportscasting was going to be. And it was just a matter of editing the copy to fit the space and to fill the different topics. We definitely wanted to have him say that there was doubt about our manager, because that was true. and we wanted to, and we wanted to give him a proper kick in the ass.
Major question mark. That's what
major question mark. And I remember I was sitting with him when he heard it. He was like, "Oh, guys, come on." And we're like, it's just a joke, man. Can't you take a joke? But no, we wrote the copy, and I had come up with the idea about Play Games because people really loved All Borough Kings, the way it looked, and the copy on the inside with all the different characters and stuff. And it was a major, step for us. We had to follow it up with something cool, something unique. And I really had to talk the guys into dressing up and doing the sports thing. They, some of them, especially Sean and I think Mark D, were like, this is like borderline corny, and I don't know about this. And, our thing in Doggy Dog, and it was certainly becoming that way even more and more as the band aged longer and longer, was like, look, it's always been democratic. However, at that point, we were saying, you can say no, but you got to start coming up with your own idea. If you just can't say no to everything all the time. Say no, but come up with something better or go in a different direction. And nobody else had any ideas for an album, no names that were like, that five guys in the band could vote on and say yes. And I think it was me, Dave started believing in the idea, and then Sudi, our sax player. And then we had a 3-against-2 vote. And then we just, all guys bought in and ended up doing it. And once we all decided we were doing it, we went all in. Everybody played their part and really kind of brought it to life. So I was proud of the ways the guys reacted, and they didn't sulk and not be a part of it. So we just wanted something cool. We wanted to offer the fans just a little bit deeper dive into our personalities. And to tell you the truth, it was most selfish for me because the Rangers, my hockey team, that I'm wearing the cap now, won the Stanley Cup in 1994, and I'm a huge hockey fan. I'm an ice hockey player. I coach for 20 years. I've been a volunteer coach in DC, so I was like, I'm going to get to put on hockey clothes, and my card's going to be a hockey card, and yeah. So it was a bit selfish, self-serving, but at the same time, there were no other ideas, so we went in that direction. And I have to say, I'll add one more thing about it that the band was thinking at the time. We didn't go into it wanting to be in the charts or, having this impact or whatever it is. But the more success you have and the more taste you get, you want to compete, you want to be. If you're number 9, why not be number fucking 1? Like, if you're gonna be a pop star, be the biggest one you can be. And one of the things with the band was in the very early days, like I said, we didn't want to have boundaries, but we also didn't want to limit ourselves to any fan group. So if somebody from a fanzine or somebody from MTV called, even at the top of our, let's say, powers and success, we were still doing the smallest fanzines, the smallest magazines. We were still doing meet and greets after like every show or before every show. You would see us in the crowd just walking around. Like, we didn't put up any walls around us at any time in our career. We never had a bodyguard or anything like that. We always felt like we were fans of music ourselves. And if we just kept true to that we would never have problems with ourselves thinking we were sellouts. Plenty of people called us sellouts, and that's fine. They can have their opinion. I don't give a shit about that. I never did. But we never ourselves felt like sellouts. We always said, look, from the beginning, we were going to follow this wherever it led, and we were true to that.
One more question about games,
Please.
play games. This might fall completely flat on its face, but the artwork has, a baseball card packet. Was there an edition of the album that was in like a CD size baseball card pack, or am I completely imagining it? Or was that just promotional, sort of adverts we saw in the magazines?
Yeah, I think in the
kind of rings a bell.
No, what happened was there was a deluxe version of Play Games that came out, a CD version that had cards in it. So besides the pictures of the cards on the inside of the CD booklet, there was an actual version of the album that you could have your own card, and the 5 cards were separated. I don't know if it ever came like properly packaged in foil like baseball cards, but that's definitely where kind of the idea went. Once we decided Play Games and we were going to do this, the designer and I had discussions about the baseball cards and how that was gonna, and the name of the baseball card company at the time, the biggest one was called Topps, and it had 2 P's at the end. So we just changed the name from Topps to Props, because in hip hop, when you give respect, you give your props. That's your proper. So we just was like, Tops is become Props. And in the late 90s, especially in skateboarding, it was all about ripping off like the DED Run DMC shirt you're wearing there. Like skateboard brands just ripped off everything, because you couldn't copyright it fast enough. You know, you could get a product out and you could sell it, and then the lawyers would come after you with cease and desist. But you'd already be like, hey, all those decks are sold and all those shirts are sold, and we promise we won't do it anymore. So yeah, it was all about the ripoff in the 90s.
I mean, the whole sort of concept and the whole look of that album really does work, and you know, Iron Eagle's sort of contribution, yeah, just
totally.
fits really nice with the whole project.
Yeah, I mean, it was clean as fuck. Like, you know, I have to say, we've had the same designer do all of our records, and she's actually the person who came up with the name Doggy Dog. And Dave and Sean and I, it was only three of us in the band, agreed on it at that point. So yeah, she takes credit for that, and everything, every release we've done, including our new one coming up, is done by KB, and she's a master. She's won design awards by her peers and for her work, and yeah, she's a badass, and we're lucky we've had her because she makes us look good every time.
I guess it's back to me then, Andy. Yeah. I'm going to cover off the next kind of two albums in the EP in kind of one kind of period of question, because it's quite a long period of time. It's probably quite it's a substantial period of your career,
like
but it's
half our history at least,
and it's probably one of the most challenging times of the career of the band. So Amped came out in 1999. And considering I remember Play Games when it came out, I remember rushing out to get it, that 3-year gap between Play Games and Amped, I have no recollection of this album ever being publicized, ever reading about it, even knowing it even existed. And then, of course, with Walk With Me, when that came out, no idea what happened there, didn't get any sort of announcements on that. And the first time I actually heard again of Dog Eat Dog with a release was with Brand New Breed and what was it, Vibe Cartel, the music video for that. Mm-hmm. And it made me something. It was actually that particular video was me go, oh, they've done something new. And then I went back and went, hang on, they did 2 albums between there. What happened there?
Yeah.
I had no collection. So what was it like? Because obviously back in 2000s was when you parted ways with Roadrunner. So that whole journey with Amped coming out in 1999, the Roadrunner separation, what was going through the band's mind? What was it like going through that, having been with No Fronts, Play Games, doing the £100,000 music videos? How was it to be in the band at that time?
Well, it started off business as usual. After Play Games, we had chart and video success with Isms, with Rocky. So things were going okay. You know, we had done headlining tours. We were still getting big festivals on the phone every summer, and everything was grand. So, but there was definitely problems with the label. You know, we had big success around the world. We had gone over to Southeast Asia, Israel, Brazil on Play Games. So we really felt like we had made some strides, but we could not get Roadrunner to properly promote us in the States.
Right.
You know, it was just like nothing worked. And I remember, you know, the straw that kind of broke the camel's back was Wu-Tang Forever was getting ready to come out, and we had the RZA locked in to do a music video for Step Right In. And we had interest for a Warped Tour sampler, and you know, it just Dog Eat Dog. If we had made that video and got the RZA and made that Dog Eat Dog Wu-Tang connection at that time, who knows what would have happened? We might have been able to strike gold in the States, maybe not. But at that point, Roadrunner said no to spending the money. They said, who's the Wu-Tang Clan? We don't know them. How is this going to be worth our money? And they nixed the idea, and that was that. So disappointed, but we said, okay. And we started writing Amped. We had some tough times. You know, we knew that it took a while to find a producer for Amped. And when we finally had all the songs together and we got in the studio, it took 14 months to finish that record. And now you're talking about that 3 year window between 96 and 99. And in that time, Korn, Kid
Yeah.
Rock, Limp Bizkit, new metal had taken over. And I think, I'm proud of Amped. I think we have some bangers on that record. Vocally, I feel like I made my biggest leap ever in my career between Play Games and going into Amped. There's some real growth, singing, rapping, rhythmically. I thought the band did some great work there. But when the record came out, we had just gotten a brand new manager in Germany who was a real big shot. And the first thing he said was, "You need to get off Roadrunner. We can never make money working with this label." So we trusted him to get us off Roadrunner, and he did, but he didn't get us on another label. By the time he, could strike a deal, our value had dropped so much that it wasn't, bands weren't getting the same kind of deals and the same kind of money anymore. And then it was just time for us. We had to wait until the contract with him was up. And now you're talking like 2002. By that point, I already had a full-time job. Everybody in the band was doing other work. We knew that Dog Eat Dog was not going to pay the bills. It was like right around 9/11. We kind of figured out like, all right, we're not getting so many calls anymore. This is, we're going to waste all the money that we've earned or saved is going down the drain unless we start working. So what happened was Dog Eat Dog stopped becoming top priority. We had jobs, we were settling into different lives. We're still getting calls, and we have, other than the pandemic summer of 2020, we performed every single year in Europe since 1994.
Right.
Up until this day, really. So we always got a call for at least one festival or this or that, but the band just stopped becoming top priority. We never quit. We never broke up. It took a while, but we found a booking agent who eventually became our manager, who eventually became our label, and that's how Walk With Me came out. He wanted us to try and get in the studio, and we ended up getting into the studio. The only real reason why we even went was because a pretty famous skateboarder from the 80s, Klaus Grabke, who was also a musician, sang for the band Thumb, and now is the mixing desk console producer for the Picture Books, who are a great band. His son Finn plays in. But Klaus had a studio, and it was a no risk move. It was like, hey guys, let's just go and work on a couple of songs. He's a skateboarder in Germany with this tiny studio in the middle of nowhere, and he was like, fuck it, I just want to see what you guys can do. There was no money exchanged. It was like, let's just try and see if we can make some magic. And we went in, we did like 3 songs with him, and we're like, yeah, that was fun. Like, we have something to say, and we might as well keep going. And it was one of those deals where we would play festivals on the weekends, and then we would go and to the studio Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and we were writing and recording kind of simultaneously. Ideas were coming, and it was very easy, particularly for Dave and I. We were just vibing, and things were working out really well. The only bummer about that time was Sean Kilkenny was just having a real hard time, and he wasn't playing well, and he was battling some demons, and we could tell it just wasn't healthy for him to be in the band. So we all decided it was best if Sean took a break and stepped away and got healthy. and we had had an opening band in Switzerland perform before us, and it was a three-piece band, and their lead guitar player or guitarist and singer, we, exchanged information with him. We thought he was a really talented guy, and we were going through it with Sean, and we just asked him if he could fill in and do the gigs. And Roger ended up filling in. Dave and Klaus Grabke finished the guitar tracks on the album. And then when the album came out, we decided that we needed a full-time guitar player. And we had kind of did a big guitar player search in New Jersey, and a bunch of friends and different people came to try out. And we decided on Matt. And Matt Salem played guitar for about a year and a half. He's in the Summertime video. And there was such a huge age gap between us and Matt. We were all in our 30s, and he was like 19, 20, and he didn't have the experience and hadn't gone through the wars with us. So he was always kind of the new guy and the kid, and he just didn't feel connected to us. And honestly, I don't think we really felt as connected to him. He did a fine job on the gigs, but it just wasn't working out. And to make the story short, the album Walk With Me, had no proper label. Nuclear Blast was doing distribution just as a favor to our manager. So I think there were about 10,000 copies of that album that were printed up, and whatever didn't get sold and eventually came back to us, and we would just sell it at live gigs. We still kept doing gigs until about, 2015, I guess. Yep, XXV, the 25-year anniversary. Roger had been playing with us again for years, and I thought we would never write another song in our career. I was just happy working full-time, doing dog eat dog part-time for fun, playing the old songs, making people happy. And Roger was like, hey, it'd be great if we could try some new music. I have lots of ideas. So we thought, for 25 years, let's go in the studio, let's create a song to mark that moment. And we were just going to put it out for free on YouTube or whatever, Spotify. And the one song turned into 4 songs. And, we were quite happy with the results. We felt like at that point, it was fun to do the new music. We put the album or the EP out in 2016, and we got approached by a small label out of Germany. And he was like, look, you guys have something to say. I've seen a couple concerts in the last few years. There's younger people that are reacting well to this. I'm hearing nothing but great things from promoters about you guys. Your shows are getting bigger and bigger, kind of every summer. Just our little club shows, we're going from 150 to 200 to maybe 250. Some nights on a Friday or Saturday, we're doing 500 or 600. So we were building some momentum, and he said, I want you guys to make a record. And we decided that at that point in our lives, and in that point in the band's history, that we did have something to offer and we had something to say. And we loved working with the guy who produced the EP. And he was just like, let's just start piecing together songs and start recording. And so we started in 2017 with a few songs, and then went back in 2018 and 2019 and kind of just started building up songs and ideas. And then, of course, the pandemic hit, and we just went on pause. And 2021, we wrote a few more. And last summer, we ended up getting back to the studio and really getting all the ideas together and started really piecing everything together. And we finished up all the tracks in fall of 22. And we're just getting ready to start mixing here in the next week or two. We'll really start getting down to brass tacks, and hopefully by mid to late March, the album will be done. The artwork is almost complete. So all the little things that we've been working towards the last 5 years are really starting to fall into place now. And yeah, that's the journey, from
Yeah.
1999 till 2023. It's a long fucking time, but we never quit. We never stopped believing in each other, whatever that meant. And the phone never stopped ringing. People still believed in us. And, we've been through different managers and labels and booking agents and all that stuff. But throughout all that time, we never stopped playing. We never quit. And, no matter what happens here when the record's out, if it becomes the biggest thing in the world or nobody gives a fuck, it doesn't matter to us. We just want to put our energy and our vibration out in the world, and one more time, and that's it. And 2024, we have the 30th anniversary of Allboro Kings, and we'll probably do some gigs, some festivals, and maybe some club shows around that. And then after that, who knows? We're not committing. We're not saying we're breaking up, or we're not saying we're going to keep going forever. We're just committed to the next, let's say, year and a half, and see where that takes us and where that positions us. If we decide that's it, we want to break up and call it a day, we'll be happy knowing that we did absolutely everything we wanted to do. We put our vibration out in the world one more time even, and it's exciting for us. It feels like we're being a new band. And honestly, after not having a proper worldwide release since 1999, we effectively are a new band for people. Yeah. Yes, we have hardcore people that know about us and that care about us and that follow our Facebooks and Instagrams and stuff like that. But there's many, many, many more people that are going to festivals and following hardcore or metal or whatever you want to call it, crossover music, and that don't even know we exist. So it's exciting for us to have something new, and I hope people connect with it and that it resonates. But if not, I know that I love everything that we're doing and that we've done on this record.
Well, I think me and Andy can't wait to definitely hear it. And it's weird when it's weird when you say about Dog Eat Dog, because whenever I say to someone about, when I mention to people, I was like, we're going to be interviewing JC from Dog Eat Dog, and they go, never heard the band, but I know of the band. It's the band name they've heard for years. But even if you've never heard, you definitely know of the band. So
right.
It's one of those ones that's been always people have talked about. I know, Andy, you had a couple of little tidbit questions because we did quite a big chunk of history in one go. We skipped over one area that I know you had a question about.
Sure, anything.
I don't know. The only other question, JC, thank you so much for being so candid and recalling every step of this band's history, and also enlighten us on what's coming in, hopefully in later this year. But the only other question I had was, you said you toured extensively, you've been to Europe countless times. What is the best? You don't have to say London, you don't have to say the Camden show that I was at, But what was the best? What's the best country, best city you played in?
Man, it's so hard to just name one city. We've been to. Saw this thing that I reposted last week on the Dog Eat Dog Facebook page that had 99 cities. And it was like, how many have you been to? And I think 70 out of 99 I could say been to. So, to pinpoint one city or even one country is very difficult to do. I will say London has got to be, one of the top places in the world for us. Not only have we played in London so many times from 1993 up until now, but we used to go there constantly for press and radio and TV. MTV used to be based in UK, and Roadrunner UK had a fantastic promo department. Marcus Arisman did an incredible job taking us from the fringe shows on MTV to mainstream play. And Michelle over there, I know, is one of the most respected promo people in metal music, period, not only in the United Kingdom but in metal. So we had dynamite people behind us at the label. We didn't always see eye to eye with them, but even the first girls that worked at Roadrunner UK when we came over in '93, they went out drinking with us. You know what I mean? We used to go to like the Rock Nights and go see Crusher or Borderline, oh, God, yeah, or stuff like that. So London has such a special place in my heart and the band's heart that that is one of the top cities. And then you have like Cologne in Germany, another media spot that we've done tons. Lately, I have to say the band wrote most of the new album in Prague because we're kind of based out of Prague in Europe right now, just because most of our crew is from Prague, and our back line and the sprinter that we rent, everything comes from Prague. And our sax player is a Czech guy that comes from Prague as well. So over the last 10 or 15 years, we made Prague kind of our home base, where it used to be in the early 2000s, it used to be in Germany. And in the 90s, it was the United Kingdom, like the bus would come from UK and the back line UK. So we kind of reorganized over the years. And now Prague is like our home away from home. Like people are like, oh, you're back again? Oh my God, I'm sick of you guys, So that's been a great city, and it's so much fun. And there's it's one of those cities. It's closer to, let's say, traditional Eastern Europe, but still has an EU vibe to it, let's say. So I'd say top city. It's definitely London. I mean, last time we played London on the Aldborough Kings 25th anniversary. That was one of my favorite shows ever. My nephew and my godson were there. My mom was there from Ireland. She came over to the gig. A couple of cousins that are in London came to the gig. I mean, there's nothing better than performing in front of family. So that's a top one for me. The XXV, the 25th anniversary one, that was mental. We went to, after the London show, we went to Paris the next night, and we were like, guys, like, nothing's going to top London, so let's just go out and have fun. And like, Paris damn near top London. It was that crazy. Like, I did a fucking flip into the audience in the middle of a Who's the King. And like, I don't stage dive that much anymore. And particularly now, after breaking my Achilles tendon on stage in 1999, in 2019, like, I'm very careful on stage. But like, that night I did a flip in Paris after the London show, just because, when you're at a gig and there's a vibe and people are packed in, it's not just the band that's giving the energy, it's the crowd. It's a circle. It's really, it's a closed circle between the band and the crowd. And, then you get like security, and Camden is one of those places where there's never a problem with security, because you got Ed OG and his boys, and they keep a tight ship, but everybody gets treated with love and respect. And when you have moments like that, they're unforgettable. And, we've had sick moments in London. So since I'm talking to you guys, I'm going to say London is the best town for Doggy Dog to play in, but there's definitely tops around the world. And, we get a kick out of performing in front of 10 people. We've had shows like that in the last 33 years, where you get up on stage and there's nobody there. But that's a challenge too, because you've got to connect with 10 people, and if you don't give them a show, they're going to fucking let you know. Like, you have to face them afterwards at the merch stand, or, having a beer afterwards, or, the promoter is going to be like, oh my God, you guys suck tonight, So you better deliver, you better show up. And we have pride, we've nothing less than 100% is what we're given every night. And, you don't always make that mark, but you got to shoot for it. And I got to say, that's part of the reason why this band has lasted 33 years, is because we hold each other accountable. There's no passengers. We've had lineup changes over the years because we felt like guys weren't giving 100% or putting their heart into this band. And guys have left the band because they felt like they couldn't give 100%. And that's okay. And that's fair. So That's the honest answer.
Thank you very much. I just want to mirror exactly what Andy said. Just want to say a big thank you for doing the interview with us today. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on here. I hope when you get the new album out, you'll send it to us and we'll do a full review of it. Yeah, just a big thank you for being on the channel. And for everyone, please go and support Dog Eat Dog. Go and check everything out. Go and download. Go on Spotify. Listen to all their music. And please, of course, subscribe to the ADK channel. We want you to do that as well.
Yeah.
Thank you very much
definitely.
for watching and take care.
Yo, you guys are the best. Thanks for having me. Thanks for asking great questions and then winding me up and watch me go.
You're more than welcome. Cheers now. Take care. Bye-bye.